Welcome back, everyone. Today we are diving into one of the coolest parts of exercise physiology, well, at least I think so, how your lungs and heart basically team up the moment you start moving and begin exercise. And as you can see up here, this is the episode where ventilation, CO2, pH, cardiac output all collide, so to speak, in a good way to get your body moving with exercise. As usual, I'm going to walk you through those 10 questions, which are not just about simple recall, but understanding why things change in the body, and in this case, when exercise intensity rises, right? Things like, why does ventilation spike at the respiratory threshold? Why does your heart try so hard to get you through, so to speak, win the battle of exercise, at least from its standpoint? And things like, how does your body manage blood flow when suddenly every muscle in your legs is basically asking for the same access to oxygen? The goal here, right, is to build up your mastery of ventilation, CO2 transport, cardiac output regulation, and how your body systems reorganizes themselves on the fly during exercise. Again, I'm trying to build your mastery of knowledge by progressively going up Bloom's taxonomy here. So pause where you need to, test your reasoning as you go, and well, let's get into it. Starting off easy to get things warmed up. Number one, which system receives blood directly from the left ventricle? This should be fairly straightforward. The answer, of course, is your systemic circulation, and that just establishes foundational cardiovascular flow orientation. This is just straight up level one. Just got to recall it and remember it. Not too hard. By the way, these questions, I'm now giving you 5 choices. I'm making it maybe a little more challenging here. So question 2. At rest, how much oxygen does the myocardium extract from coronary blood? Is it 25 to 30%, 40 to 50, 60 to 65, 70 to 80, or greater than 90%? And this one's actually pretty high. It's 70 to 80%. It is already high, which is how this shows why coronary blood flow must increase substantially during exercise, which is pretty fascinating. And this one's getting up to a level 2 now. All right, question 3. At rest, only 1 in about 30 to 40 muscle capillaries actually get perfusion. Why? Is it A, limited cardiac output, B, high blood viscosity, C, low metabolic demand, D, inadequate oxygen diffusion, or E, reduced arterial pressure? Pause if you need it. Answer is C. This links capillary perfusion to tissue metabolic demand. If I just said low blood flow at rest, you'd immediately get that answer, but that would just be level 1, right? That would just be the simple remember. We're going to get you a little bit higher up into the, going beyond recall into the understand level. All right, some spaced repetition here. This is a callback question. Number 4, the early increase in heart rate at the onset of exercise is primarily due to A, increased circulating epinephrine, B, increased sympathetic nerve firing, C, parasympathetic withdrawal, D, increased venous return, or E, increased myocardial contractility. And the answer is that C, quick parasympathetic withdrawal. This explains that fast heart rate kinetics right at exercise onset. We reviewed this question before, but it's pretty amazing. Your vagus nerve has the brakes set on the heart, and as soon as you release it, boom, your heart is ready to go. All right, question 5. Which tissues cannot significantly reduce blood flow during exercise? Is it A, kidneys and GI, B, skin and liver, C, skeletal muscle and skin, D, lungs and liver, E, heart and brain? And this one is just fascinating. Of course, it's the heart and your brain. This clearly demonstrates that, well, hierarchical blood flow redistribution during exercise. These organs, these tissues absolutely cannot afford to reduce that blood flow. All right, moving on up. Question 6, blood pressure is the product of which 2 variables? Heart and stroke volume, venous return, cardiac output and TPR, MAP and compliance, or preload and afterload? This one might have thrown you for a curveball here. This is cardiac output times your total peripheral resistance. This reinforces those determinants of systemic blood pressure during exercise. Some people are just quick to choose A, heart rate times stroke volume, but that's just cardiac output. You can have all the resistance in the world with preload and afterload, but if the heart is not pumping, there is no blood pressure. So that one makes you now apply your knowledge in a basically new situation or scenario, or for example, like a case. Question 7. Fully dilated vessels can hold 20 liters of blood. This is approximately how much more than normal blood volume. 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, or 6 times. So this requires you to get the knowledge first and then work backwards, and it basically highlights the importance of, obviously, your vascular tone and circulation control. Exercise makes it seem like we suddenly have more blood, effectively, well, quadrupling our circulatory system, giving us 4 entire circulatory systems in one human body by pumping that blood faster. So it is 4 times your normal blood volume of about 5 liters. Pretty cool stuff what your body does during exercise. All right, question 8. At maximal exercise intensity, skeletal muscle blood flow can reach approximately 25 to 30%, 40 to 50%, 60 to 65, 70 to 75, or 80 to 85% of cardiac output. And the answer is E, 80 to 85. This really illustrates the magnitude of that exercise-induced hyperemia that we get. Pretty extreme blood flow redistribution. And this one's another apply question. All right, moving up again, but I think you got this. Endurance athletes achieve high cardiac outputs primarily through increases in what? Heart rate, blood pressure, ventricular wall thickness, stroke volume, or total peripheral resistance. And this answer is stroke volume, right? This reflects that central set of cardiovascular adaptations to endurance training. Once you've achieved the cardiac adaptations with a larger end diastolic volume, then once your heart rate goes up with exercise, you can pump so much more. So the answer is actually stroke volume in this situation. And question 10, a little tougher. Increasing your end diastolic volume does not cause which of the following responses? Increased preload, increased stroke volume, increased force of contraction, increased cardiac output, or decreased strength of contraction. Again, pause if you need to, and answer here is going to be E, decreased strength of contraction. This just reinforces that mechanical basis of cardiac output regulation. This is essentially the application of the whole Frank-Starling curve and analyzing it against your available multiple choice question options and then just going through each one individually one by one. So this is getting up into that level 4 analyze. If you got all 10 right, excellent. You're well on your way to doing well in the quiz, and I'll see you in the next video.